Today, I'm sharing some snippets from the Retailgentic podcast hosted by Scot Wingo. Retailgentic is one of my favorite podcasts. It covers the intersection of retail, e-commerce, and agentic commerce. And Scot has been one of the sharpest voices tracking how agentic commerce is moving, how it is reshaping the existing commerce journey. As a disclosure, I am an advisor to Scot's company Refi. But that doesn't stop us from disagreeing on things, which is part of why these conversations are fun. I've spent a lot of time on this podcast talking about the threats that AI-enabled shopping poses to the existing formats of retail media. Compressed shopping journeys, fewer page views, less on-site inventory for retailers to sell. But in this conversation with Scot, I wanted to push past that and talk about what comes next, because I really think there is a version of this that's better for everyone. Better for brands, better for retailers, and better for shoppers. But getting there means being honest about what's broken today. Let's jump in.
And now they can kind of see where Rufus and Sparky are. And they're like, oh my goodness, it feels like most of their on-site agents are really more what I would call customer support. Where's my order? And they're really good at that, but they're not really good at discovery. So I think that could also be really interesting. Another kind of element of this is as they upgrade those things, is that going to also, even when people do come to the site, are they going to be accelerating them to a PDP themselves?
Yeah, that's interesting. I think there's a lot of, it's a great point about it being category specific. Interesting about that being apparel. There's some retailers I've spoken with and they're not really concerned because they don't have a huge on-site business. There's some retailers where it's all in store. Think about a discount store, right? Or a TJ Maxx. They don't care. Yeah. This is
Dollar
not
stores.
going to affect them at all, right? Dollar stores, etc. They're not worried, and maybe they shouldn't spend too much time worrying about it. But a retailer where there's a compressed shopping journey that's now happening, I think we'll really need to start thinking about what does a version 3 look like. To be honest, I think that maybe some of these current revenue streams shrink, but there are more opportunities for brands and retailers to partner together. I've got a whole list. I think it's just going to change. I think, the sad thing is for a lot of brands, they have felt for quite some time that a lot of the retail media ad budget that they're spending has been a margin extraction rather than a truly additive place to spend money. And they're kind of forced into it by their retailer partners. That is, that it doesn't always happen that way. There's some retail media activations that are truly additive and exciting and a great win-win. But there is this kind of reputation that at least some of the time it's retailers putting on the hard word with brands rather than it being a true win-win. And there are win-win media opportunities that can be built. So what does a win-win actually look like in practice? Scot was walking through the new ad surfaces that Google and Amazon are building for agentic commerce, things like sponsored prompts in Rufus and direct offers in Gemini, and it reminded me of a mechanism that already exists today that could become much more important in this new world.
So you're looking for dishwashers and you realize, well, I really want to get it from Lowe's because there's one a mile from my house and I had a great Lowe's experience. You can then kind of flip it and then look at only the Lowe's inventory for dishwashers, pick yours, and then inside of there is a Lowe's branded chat experience, but also kind of like a on Gemini Lowe's merchant experience. And then I thought, well, that's going to be, obviously Lowe's is paying for that, so that's kind of an ad in a way, but it's an upsell. But then I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities for ads in there. So now maybe that gives Lowe's a surface area to go sell Maytag and GE some ads in concert with Gemini, or is Gemini going to sell? So that's another kind of interesting surface area for us to think about.
Well, I think that that's interesting in that it ties into something I'd see a lot of potential in. This has existed for some time, but it's called collaborative bidding. And it's when a retailer and a brand both chip in to run an ad. You might have seen this on social media or in Google search actually as well, where there will be an ad for that Maytag dishwasher. It will be from Lowe's. The ad will show up from the Lowe's handle, but Maytag chipped in for that ad buy and that ad unit. And it was based on, again, that retailer's offsite audience extension data. So this is actually a pretty cool opportunity and a new surface for that collaborative bidding to continue, where a retailer and a brand, that's a win-win scenario because the retailer gets the sale, the brand gets the sale, their interests are really aligned in that.
Is there ad technology for that, like to do that collaborative bidding? Is it some kind of like a manual thing on the back end that they kind of sort out?
Yeah, that is it. It's done. Some retailers manage it themselves with a team. There was a capability that DoorDash acquired a year ago called Symbiosys. I'm not sure exactly if that's still out in the wild. And then there's another ad tech company called Ampd, which is getting started with this as well. Not in the agentic space specifically, but
I knew you'd know the answer to that. I had no idea.
Did you know that leading retail media networks drive 85% of their ads through mid and long tail advertisers? Miracle Ads provides full funnel ad formats tailored to both 1P and 3P advertisers, leveraging unique AI capabilities that provide unprecedented levels of relevance and engagement. Retailers who want to capture ad spend from the long tail of 3P marketplace sellers use Miracle Ads in their tech stack. Learn more at miracle.com. That's MIRAKL.com. Collaborative bidding might be one piece of the puzzle, but the bigger shift I'm hoping for is in how targeting itself works in these AI environments.
I kind of think of it as the service element, right? So the way you differentiate is you add layers of service, and it can be loyalty, it can be free add-ons, and it can be getting the product. And another one that's really popular is payment mechanism. So I have some 20-year-olds and they love buy now, pay later. I would never use that. It feels kind of, it's not my thing. But if you look at the data, there is a cohort of people that they don't like having a credit cards are for emergency, and they don't hardly put anything on there. And they like to know, I'm going to buy something big and I have a plan to pay it down in 3 or 4 payments and be done with it, not have to stress about it. So I do think there is going to be a lot more levers that I think it's actually going to be a golden era for trying to, do marketing, that we restricted to 4 keywords and a CPC thing in the Google era. So I think it's going to look more like marketplace explosion of innovation around these things than what we've seen before.
I hope so. I hope we see some new and creative ad formats. I also hope we see some new and creative targeting options as well, because the current MO is I'm using all of your browsing history and information about what you clicked on, what you might be in market for, rather than the context of the chat itself and the content that I'm looking at right now. And so this is where I want to come back to the Claude Super Bowl ad, is that the reason why those ads were so good is that the AI character was serving up an endorsement of something that really didn't have any context about what that person was really asking about.
It picked up some context, but it missed all the other ones.
Exactly. So I think that is a real misnomer. Of course, these more intelligent models know what our rationale is 99.9% of the time. Sometimes they get it wrong. But that's the missing thing that I think we're going to be able to get potentially with targeting. I really hope that the models figure out how to do this, which is target the context of the query, not who I am as a shopper, or these attributes or past purchases that can be added on. But one of those Claude ads where how can I get better at the gym, and it was something about him being short. So that's not.
We help short kings stand tall.
That's right.
I love
Classic.
that bit. The writing on that was superb. Yeah.
Yes, fantastic. The really good ads, but I think what I hope we will be able to get to is this more sort of content based contextual advertising rather than, you know, some of the creepiness factor that comes from ads is like, oh, they're following me around, and when they're too following us too closely, it feels invasive. So if there is these, and the only way that these LLMs will be able to do it is purely algorithmic, which opens up its own challenges for advertisers who want more control over their ad spend. But if we're able to sort of only bring an ad into an environment when I'm really like working through something or really trying to discover something, rather than like some kind of creepy thing reminding me that I have wide feet. Yeah, I don't need to be reminded of that all the time.
Random example. Asking for a friend.
I genuinely believe the next chapter doesn't have to be a doom loop. If retailers and brands move towards models where their interests are actually aligned, things like collaborative bidding, contextual targeting, genuinely helpful ad formats, Retail Media 3.0 could be the best version of what we've had yet.